start reviewing the patch notes, but as a forward, keep supporting a channel that brings nothing but nerfs. If Zos nerfs all the sets in his video, then you will all know what to do. Stop watching his videos and unsubscribe. Hey guys, this is Nephis here. We're gonna review the patch notes. After this, I want you to unsubscribe. Alright, so we're gonna review the week 2 PTS patch notes here. And I didn't review the week 2 PTS patch notes last week, but we'll do it here today. So I think it's gonna be a bunch of bug fixes. So traditionally it's week 1, it's like all the changes. Week 2 is kind of bug fixes or like some slight adjustments to those changes. Week 3 is when things kind of a bulk of changes or adjustments go through. Week 4 may have more adjustments, but not usually. Week 5 and week 6 are kind of like the roleplay weeks. More bug fixes, and week 6 is kind of like the Stadia certification for ES, so that's why we have added another extra week of PTS. Alright, combat and gameplay. Companions. Lots of issues with companions on the PTS. And I think a lot of people are kind of dissatisfied. It feels like there's two camps of
like and subscribe.
So it feels like there's two camps of players right now in regards to companions. One camp is like they like it, and the other camp is like, well, these are fucking useless. So I guess let me know. But I played around a little bit with companions too on the PTS, and it's like, I don't know. I think it's like a neat kind of side thing. I don't think it's as central to the game as a lot of, sorry, excuse me, not a lot, but some content creators are making them out to be. Like I can see some value in them teaching players in a sense, or like maybe again like they're intended to do, I guess, encourage or raise confidence in some players. But other than beyond that, I've seen a lot of feedback telling me that, hey, can you tell the devs these guys can't tank very well in these vet dungeons? And I'm like, well, they're not really meant to replace players. So there you go. But yeah, lots of bug fixes for companions week 2. Looks like we have some bug fixes for the trial as of week 2, but week 2 was kind of shaky for Rockgrove on the PTS. On a different note, they updated the Stone-Kiss title to Planesbreaker, and that's basically the equivalent of Godslayer. That's the No Death Harmless speedrun, and the Stone Talker title is the left hand of Alkosh title equivalent that you get when you complete all the achievements. So they changed the Stone Talker to Daedric Bane. This was kind of controversial in a sense because I think a lot of in-game players gave the feedback, or sorry, not in-game players, in-game raiders gave a lot of feedback saying, Stone-Kiss is kind of a weird title compared to like Dawnbringer or Godslayer, Griffinheart, or Immortal Redeemer, or TikTok Tormentor. So I can see why they changed it. I think I definitely like Planesbreaker more than Stone-Kiss. Not gonna lie. I don't know if being a Stone-Kisser or being Stone-Kissed is as good as being a Planesbreaker. Kind of reminds me of the Magic the Gathering Planeswalker. But whatever. And the Stone Talker title to Daedric Bane. I think this is where a lot of people have the issue. Like, Left Hand of Alkosh is kinda cool. Stone Talker, I think they should have just kept if the Daedric Bane was the alternative. I don't really like Daedric Bane. I don't know, it just sounds really mundane and, like, not special. You know what I mean? So, whatever, I guess. Let's see. More fixes, more fixes. More fixes. More fixes, more fixes, quest fixes, okay, let's see. Yeah, companions will now be correctly affected or targeted by boss mechanics. Yep. Same thing, combat and gameplay, buffs and debuffs. I don't like that they fixed this, but whatever. Fixed an issue where this bonus was applying to toy mounts. Sorry about this one. Why sorry about this one? I found it funny. Shadow image, okay, fix, crystal yeah, that was bugged, week 2 or week 1, I believe. Let's see. That's pretty much it. I mean, in addition to ability timers, which is a huge thing, especially for console. Looks like they're fixing a few issues, but that's week 2. Again, as I said before, week 2, not too many. Now week 3, this is this week, version 7.0.2 for Blackwood chapter. Let's see if there's any major changes. Looks like we got the Ellsworth celebration coming up. We got event tickets. I'm not sure if there's going to be double XP. I think it's just like the Rothgar events where it's like double loot drops from dragons and nodes. Oh, I guess the Sunspire trial is going to do double drops as well for those of you farming it. Companion performance testing. Okay, just more companion stuff. I think a majority of the focus is actually on the companion system and how they're going to expand it in the future. So kind of exciting in that regard. I feel like ESO has come a long way in terms of their ability, like to implement some neat stuff, quality of life wise, or even new system wise, like reconstruction, sticker book or whatever. Now it's companions. Okay, more companion fixes again. Lots of companion fixes again. Okay, here we go. This is pretty significant because, I think this PTS is probably one of the more popular public test servers in a while. I think there's at least 6 raid teams, including mine, that are on the PTS. We haven't seen that. I mean, that doesn't sound like many, but that's that's actually a fair amount. And I think there's a lot more than 6 guilds as well, PvE raid guilds, that are raiding on PTS. I think there's probably at least 15 from what I've seen. So that's pretty cool. So this is pretty relevant to a lot of raiders who want to go for the, whether it's World's First or one of the first trifectas for the new trial and getting the new mount. So hard mode difficulty is now unlocked for all bosses in Veteran Rockgrove. Yep. As we've seen, it's definitely a fair amount more difficult than the non-hard mode. I think non-hard mode people were getting like we were set to get like sub 12 minute or 12 minute-ish non-hard mode vet run with no deaths. So it's like I mean, how much time has the hard mode is added? Quite a bit. I think it could potentially, depending on the strategy groups use, make the speedrun tight. Anyway, okay. Stranglers created by Soul Zon Reavers will no longer persist after the Reaver has been defeated. I don't know about that one. Souls on Bloodseekers will no longer defy gravity momentarily when using their fire jump ability. Soul Extraction, Astral Shield no longer stacks. That's the Soul Weaver ability. Lower the damage of the Ignite damage over time ability. I think this was destroying a lot of groups in trash, but I think this was fine, but whatever. Dremora Armigers, Havoc Rolls will no longer have a chance, no longer twist, no longer move. Havoc Barbarians are much more selective. Increase the health of the Ash Titan mini-boss before the last boss. That's pretty interesting. The Ash Titan's Molten Rain ability will now target more player characters with each successive volley. This is the this ability really hurts. If it like now that's gonna target more players, and they also increase the health, so it might be a challenging mini boss to know that potentially. On how long it takes to kill it, and it will require, I think, some level of group awareness or coordination. Baskin Snakes is actually that side boss to the left of the main, main passage. I don't know how to describe it. I would just say passage towards the first boss. As of week 1 or 2, it wasn't. I guess it wasn't intended where Baskin Snakes counted towards the speedrun achievement. So that's pretty interesting. No longer, I think, is considered part of the speedrun achievement. Alright, so Oxysil, more adjustments. They buffed the damage of Molten Earth. That's the stomp he does. Meteors will now fall at the same synchronous speed. Move the rocks out. Yeah, that was kind of annoying. Okay, Flame Herald Basse. Yeah, I think this boss got quite a big buff on the PT. I don't think anyone has yet, or at least according to Finn, as of yesterday, has yet beaten boss 2. So we'll see what happens with this one. Zalvaka. Just kind of visual fixes here, I guess. Nothing really too major. Okay. Looks like they buffed the damage received from the corrupted Azeroplasm. And that's pretty much it. Nothing too major. Housing, quests. Fixing improvements, okay. Now, where's the juicy stuff? Ah, here's the juicy stuff. Combat and gameplay. Combat and abilities. The damage over time effects listed below will now contiguously update their damage based on your stats each tick. Like a snapshot, rather than following the standard... Oh, not like the snapshot. Oh, okay. Rather than following the standard of snapshotting their stats on the application. This should fix a few issues where they're not inherent... Okay, I get it. Alright. Interesting. But I think Reliquant is still bugged on PTS, right? So cutting, okay. Fixed an issue, yes. Living Death. Fixed an issue where this ability healed the caster twice per tick. Huh. So right now, I guess on lot... Wait, was this a PTS exclusive bug? I'm not sure. Probably. Alliance War Warhorn, Sturdy, Horde Morph. Did they buff it at last? Increase the crit resist granted from this ultimate to 1320. Up from 990 to match the adjustments to major force, increasing 20%. Huh, okay, well, I guess for PvP it could be nice, but I don't know. Itemization and item sets, okay, so this is pretty big. Because I think even Christopher ESO also like pointing this out that, you know, PvPers could reach the threshold of damage scaling very easily as of week 2. Now in week 3, sets that use weapon and spell damage now require 6,574 of either one in order to reach their original values, up from 5,478, resulting in approximately a 17% reduction. So I guess the crux of the matter is, I guess the initial changes to the scaling of proc sets made them a lot more stronger in PvE and PvP. But the more you raise the threshold for the requirement of damage, or weapon or spell damage, means it's gonna be a little less better in PvE, but still almost kind of attainable in PvP. I think some people will probably say that this is another point at which where the devs should consider separating PvP and PvE, but at the same time, I think, just like we've seen with Ring of the Pale Order, and how that's been changed, like the more people there are in your group, the less effective it is, or makes it useless depending on how many people there are in the trial group. I think perhaps in the future they can consider doing something like that for proc sets, so PvEers can be happy and PvPers can be happy. But we'll see how this goes. I'm sure a lot of PvPers will still continue testing this. Sets that use, but I'm glad that they at least listen to the feedback. Sets that use magic or stamina that require 39,901. So that's gonna be, yeah, that's definitely be a bit tougher to, well, not a bit, but very slightly tougher to reach for a lot of PvPers. For PvEers, kinda. I mean, we're maybe like, what are we at right now? Like 3-4K away from this mark. Somewhere around there? I don't know. Sets that use health now will require 43,968, up from 38,350. I think this is probably the most, like, I think most agreeable change for a lot of people, especially in PvP, because now you have to sacrifice more of your max stam or max mag to get that powerful stat proc from Crimson, or whatever scales off of health now, in terms of proc sets. Sets that use physical or spell resistance now require 30,680, up from 27,890. That's okay. Yeah, I think these two are the most. I think these two are the most fair ones. These ones are kind of remain to be seen as to whether, at least for PvP, as to whether these can be easily reached or not. I think for sure the weapon spell damage, that's still kind of. I think that's okay. I mean, I think there are some builds out there. I think even on my Stamblade, I'm getting like 5,500 weapon damage procced. So I think that's okay. I don't know, we'll see. Fixed an issue, okay, fixed an issue. Merciless Charge, reduce the damage of the set by approximately 33%. Okay, so that's a VMA 2-hander. Song and Lemay, this set now scales off of max health rather than weapon or spell damage. That makes sense, considering what the set is. Cyrodiil's Ward, fixed an issue that could cause some sources of items. So, okay, Frostbite. Okay, this is a pretty huge buff. Increase the damage done with frost damage to 8%, up from 6%. To offer more of a bite. Haha, so okay. Not a huge buff, but like, I mean, it's still a strong buff. I think they really want to provide an alternative to Frost Staff DPS. In terms of item sets. I mean, everyone really, not everyone, but a lot of people really want, you know, Frost Staff DPS to be even more stronger. So, I think this is fine. And I think Frostbite, as a set in general, can still be considered for raid comps or raid itemization, depending on how your strats and content. Way of Martial Knowledge, fixing it. Okay, yeah, fixed it. Crimson Twilight, they reduced the damage done by the set by approximately 44%. They nerfed the shit out of Crimson Twilight. Explosive Rebuke, okay. Icy Conjurer, Unleash Terror, Widowmaker, so... I mean, Widowmaker wasn't really a nerf. It was just an adjustment to duration and cooldown, which is the same basic 1-to-1 thing. Monster Mask, Scourge Harvester, reduce the damage dealt by the set by approximately 30%, okay. Dervacuum, increase the damage dealt by the set by approximately 22%, interesting. Alright, Mythic Items. Let's see what they did. Death Dealer's Feet. Feet? Fet's like a festival or a party, I'm pretty sure, or a feast. Reduce the health, magicka, and stamina granted from this set to 88, down from 150. But they increased the max to 30, up from 10. Like, yes, this is more... This is noticeably more, max stats. Let's read the dev comment before I give my thoughts. Previously, this set didn't bring enough power to the table and had a very easy interaction case. While wanting to sell the concept of getting stronger the longer you stay in combat, the previous 20-second cap fell too low to really grant larger bonuses. With this new 60-second build-up, we can reward much more resources than before, hopefully making the set more fun and impactful. I still don't really understand the point of this set. I mean, maybe go to Imperial City and wear Imperial Physique and wear this Mythic, but I feel like there's like better Mythic alternatives in that kind of setup. Even if you're aiming for max stats, I don't know. I mean, like, why would I take this over Torque? You know what I mean? I mean, there's just better alternatives in this Mythic, and this is kind of like a whatever Mythic. I don't know. We'll see. Gaze of Sithis. Reduced the max health granted from this set to 30 to 76, down from 5,000. That's pretty fair. Reduced the armor granted to 4,000, down from 10,760. Yeah, I mean, they need to do this. Increase the health recovery granted to 1025, up from 500. So, I think overall these were fair adjustments, including the buff to health recovery, because you have to take note that, as of next patch, that health recovery is going to be cut in half through Battle Spirit. So that's fine. But the armor mitigation was way too high on the PTS Week 2. So for PTS Week 3, they reduced the armor mitigation. And they also reduced the max health granted. I mean, it was just too good of a Mythic. You know what I mean? It was just too good of a Mythic. Now that Battle Spirit has ingrained mitigations against stacking high health recovery in this update, yes. We've opted to take a much more balanced approach, yes. With this, the goal is to have the set be more balanced for builds who are using it to gain tons of survivability while ignoring the main drawback of the set. Since many builds may not block frequently to begin with, yes. I mean, especially for, you know, 1vxers or PvPers or even groups of PvPers or even groups of, I mean, PV, DPS, and raids could probably, you know, abuse the fuck out of this Mythic, so they had to tone it down. And, you know, everyone's like, oh, you're a fucking... You're fucking toxic gatekeeping elitist for wanting to balance fucking Mythic. But anyway, Harpooner's Waiting Kilt increased the crit strike chance per stack to 125, up from 119. Very soft buff. But at the same time, they also reduced the crit damage to done to 1 per down? Oh, sorry. I read that as down. Reduce your crit damage to 1% per stack, down from 2%. Yeah, I think they need to do this as well. This is basically gonna be the next. Duration Stranglers, Ring of the Pale Order. So yeah, this set now causes you to lose 5 stacks upon taking direct damage rather than 1. And I think this is fair too, because while there are not too many instances for DPS to take too much direct damage, I feel like the penalty for taking that direct damage, whether it was part of mechanics or a boss, was a bit too low. I mean, there should be a much more clearly defined penalty for wearing a mythic, right? Just like there is a clearly defined penalty for Gaze of Sith, as you can't block, or rather you can't mitigate things with your block. And this was kind of just, here you go, free damage. So yeah, this needed adjustment, and I agree with this. And you know, people are still hitting this week upwards of 109k. I mean, no, even if this mythic is nerfed, people will probably still use it. So, and damage probably isn't likely going down next patch in PvE. It also has a 1-second cooldown to help prevent losing all of your stacks in player versus player situations when getting hit by multiple attacks at once. That's pretty good too, for PvP. Developer comment, this set was originally presented as don't get hit the game, but in PvE encounters, that is the ideal gameplay to begin with. That is so true. And also the fact that that's tied intrinsically in with the nature of the content is just gonna double that effect. But anyway, by keeping that in mind, as well as the massive difference in stack cadence between PvE and PvP, we've really adjusted the rewards and the penalty of the set to help bring a tighter balance between the two, with a more engaging risk of running the set in general. I think it's fine. I think this was needed. And people can bitch and complain all they want about, oh, my DPS is getting nerfed by 1k or 2k, but it's just still too ridiculous. The damage is still too high in this game. It really is. Shapeshifter's Chains increase the health, magic, and stamina granted from this set while transformed to 1707 up from 1206. This is also kinda in similar fashion to Death Dealer's Fet. I just don't understand if the max stats are even worth slotting this mythic. Previously, the set wasn't offering much for werewolves, as the stat gain was pretty low, and the cost reduction felt much less impactful, since your main goal with the werewolf ultimate is to never leave it to begin with, yes. Blood Scion and Bone Goliath both receive much more effectiveness out of the cost reduction, while the max stats are less relevant, since they already have large stat steroids built in. By pumping up the stat boost a little bit more, we can help out the pack a bit without making the tyrants even more tyrannical. Okay. PvP Swords, Almalexia's Mercy fixed an issue where this set healed. Okay, yes. Yeah, Almalexia's Mercy, I mean, if some of you recall, I used it on the PV tank build and also made a build video about it. I mean, it's actually, it's a pretty strong heal-based set, and I guess you have to adjust it. Kityn of Venom, this set now ticks every 2 seconds instead of 1, but retains its overall damage after the blanket reduction to scaling. Vicious Death, increase the radius of the explosion from this set to 5 meters, up from 4. Okay, well, whatever. Trial, Defending Warrior, reduced the damage done by the set by approximately 30%. What? Okay. Saxleo's Champion, whatever, however you want to pronounce it. This set now scales in duration for the amount of ultimate spent, similar to the Halls of Fabrication sets rather than the flat amount. It now scales in 1 second for every 15 ultimate spent, as it affects more targets than the others do. So, you know, I said in, like, last week's video, in this video, like, I don't know, like, in this video, I was like, I don't know what an alternative version of Saxleo Champion would look like, and I speculated that it would either be based on how much ultimate you spent, or the duration of major force be toned down. So it looks like they went with however much ultimate you spent in direct relation to how much ultimate you need to spend with the VHOF sets. So VHOF, you get the 1 second for every 12 ultimate spent, while Saxleo Champion, since it affects 12 people, as they say here, as it affects more targets than the others do, wrong effects, is 15 ultimate for 1 second. For optimizing major force or damage, you know, a lot of people keep asking me about this set now, as of week 3. I knew about this change before reading the patch notes, and I think this is kind of, I think that it's fine now. I think it's like fine. You can still use it to keep up major force with different ultimates like barrier. However, I think given the fact that you still want the max stats from Horn, in addition to not wanting to inject the higher end, you know, raid teams with too much power, I think this is kind of in a good spot where, at least for now, in a good spot where, you know, groups that are struggling with certain mechanics or certain fights or content can still use this and get some power from it. Not all the power, but some power from the set. But yeah, I mean, this is a set that I just immediately looked at, and I mean, you know, I think a lot of people, I think, you know, the reason why I get so much backlash, especially on the YouTube videos, is especially when I review patch notes or item sets that are coming out, is a lot of people tend to think about new stuff, or maybe new stuff in ESO coming out as, oh wow, this is pretty cool, I'll use it. Oh wow, this is something new I can do. And that's fine. This is something I can have fun with. But my perspective is always, how do I abuse the fuck out of this set? How do I, you know, not exploit, but like, how do I just take so much advantage of this set that it's so good? That's my perspective, and I think given the feedback from probably the forums and elsewhere, like I could see so many ways you could abuse this set, and they had to tone it down and remove the cooldown from this set. So so this is actually fine too, because now that, since it's for every ultimate spent, no cooldown. So you could potentially, I mean, you could potentially, for groups that want to spam lower cost ults, this is also an option, depending on whatever you guys want to do, right? And of course, okay, you must now be in combat to gain the effects of the set. This was actually another thing that kind of popped to my mind, because this was like, well, okay, let's assume that people save ults before a fight, and you know how they, you know, nerf pre-buff sets, right? Arcasis, Moondancer, Sench's Bite, all that jazz. Now, okay, this kind of falls in line now. Now you can't really abuse the hell out of it. And that's pretty much it, I think. Fixed more issues. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, week 2, whatever, week 3, I mean, who didn't, I mean, I think the biggest changes are probably, obviously, to the content itself, like hard mode, rock road, but otherwise, like overarching changes that would have defined the next meta. Now we just kind of need to re-examine some stuff, particularly these 2 points here, in regards to item set scaling. And we also need to kind of think about a couple other things now, like Saxleo Champion. But other than that, I think the adjustments are more than fair. And yeah, that's pretty much